Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Make It Simple TV. I'm Heather Porter. I'm a co-founder of Autopilot Your Business, which is a digital agency. And Make It Simple is all about where myself and my co-host and my co-founder, Andrew McCauley, bring together our inner circle of experts and friends that we've met throughout the years to share their life and business lessons with you, and even a few tips that you can take away straight away and implement in your life and business. So before we introduce this week's guest, I'd like to bring on my co-host, Andrew McCauley. Hello, Andrew.
Hey Heather, how are you? Great to be on. I can't believe it's a week already since we did our last show, and today's show is going to be pretty awesome too because it's with somebody I haven't spoken to for a little while, and I'm really excited to be finding out what she's doing. I've been keeping a track of what's going on through her various social bits and pieces, so I'm excited that we're bringing her to our show today because she's got a wealth of knowledge about a topic that everyone should know about, and it's going to be fun.
I know, I agree. So, in this week's show, we have brought on a friend of ours we've known for a long time. I think, gosh, 8 years maybe for me, around that mark. Her name is Claudia De Beer, and I met her as Claudia Correa before she got married. And look, Claudia now is a national human resources manager. She has been in human resources for quite a while. Every story she tells me around dealing with staff and even her bosses impresses me to no length of how she handles humans and human beings and all of our crazy, psychoses. So I can't wait for her to share some more about that. But before she got to that point, when I met Claudia, I remember very, very clearly, like it was yesterday. We were in China in an airport, coming home from a traveling trip that we had been on together for the Billionaire Adventure Club, of which I ran and she was a member. And she was telling me, I think I'm ready now. And she said that with such huge, just weight to that one statement. She's ready to find her partner. She's ready to really start her life and really start living her potential. So I am very excited to sort of extract some of that information out of her today. So welcome to the show, Claudia.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me.
All right. So Andrew, before we kick it off, what's the first time you remember meeting Claudia? Where was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember the actual place, but I do remember that she was. You and I were both involved with large events and dealing with a lot of people, and we were looking after a lot of volunteers all around the world, both of us at one time or another. And Claudia was one of those volunteers that I met. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was certainly before she got married, and I think it was around the time of about the same time you met her too, I think, H. And one of those things that you and I are both very familiar with is dealing with a lot of people, and this has been her path. I'm pretty sure she was even doing it way back then as well, and that's why I'm fascinated today, because you and I are both dealing with our own staff, our own clients, and dealing with people is pretty much everything that you've got to do these days. Everything boils down to how people perceive each other, and I guess this is what her strength is. So, going back. When I met her, I remember she was on our core crew, I think, from memory, and she was doing a great job, which means that if you're on a core crew, it means you're a cut above everybody else. So that's my memories of her doing a great job back then. So yeah, it was a number of years ago now.
So Claudia, let's kick it off. We want to know how you chose to do what you are doing today, which is human resources.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction. And I certainly have a few stories I can tell about how we met too. But HR, look, like many people in HR, you sort of just fall into it. Back when I started, there wasn't a HR degree. There was business degrees that you could do, or different types of courses. But really, I started in an organisation right from the bottom as a mailroom clerk for a law firm, and I just reported into the HR manager. And looking at what the HR manager did in dealing with people. She did the recruitment of people, the performance management, looking into people's files, and it was that curiosity about, I really wanted to know what made people tick, how they worked and what motivated them in the workplace. So that's what started my journey in HR. And it's been now about 15 years. And in those 15 years, I got to about 2008. I was 30. I'm giving away my age there. And I just hit a wall, completely hit a wall. I had left a long-term relationship. I was doing contract work and that had ended. I was, heartbroken, no job, no direction, hated HR at that point. I'm thinking, why am I dealing with all these people problems? And basically taking them all on board myself. And that's when I ventured off to Hawaii to do one of the courses that you guys were crewing at. And that's my first recollection of both of you, actually, at that trip. And that was a very key year for me, because that's when I joined the Billionaire Adventure Club, and I ended up going to Mongolia and China, out of all places, and redirected my life completely. So here I was thinking, I'm going to get out of HR, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I just refocused it, and I think it was looking at things differently, how to deal with people differently, not taking on people's problems, because people come to you as a manager, people will always come to you with their problems. The biggest thing about managing people or having a big group of people that you manage is that your technical skills go out the door. It's all about the people, what their problems are, why they're not performing at work, and then it becomes very personal, but it's about not allowing that to become part of your own life, that you can go home every night, switch off, and have your own life, because everybody is going through their own journey. So that's kind of how I got started. That's how I then hit a wall. And yeah, you're right, Heather. From that Mongolia, China experience, something just clicked. I remember being in the back of a bus with a fellow Billionaire Adventure Club member who I'm still in touch with, and we spent 3 hours on the back of a bus. He was mentoring me and coaching me around, asking questions. We fail so often to not ask questions, and that's what I started doing. I started asking questions, but not even just in my work. I asking people questions, like even just as minute as, how are you feeling today? Or, or why is this happening? But also questioning myself. What do I want? Where do I want to go? How do I see my life? So I think that was a very key moment for me. And then my career just pretty much skyrocketed from there. I met my gorgeous husband at the beginning of 2009, and my career just went from strength to strength, and it's where I am today.
Very good. So, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to ask a quick question. I know there was something in that you said that you sort of brushed over, which a lot of people may or may not get, but you talked about going home and switching off. And sometimes it's a lot easier to say that than do it. How do you switch off when you've got all those issues, and a lot of people take their work on board, they take it personally, they think about it, they internalize it, they'll go home and they'll think about it, and it'll affect everything they do at home because they're thinking about their work stuff. What sort of things do you do to switch off so that you don't have that issue?
I use a method called compartmentalization. So it's about imagining in your mind, imagining a filing cabinet, if you would. And as you're driving home, it's putting all those issues that affected you during the day into a little file, and putting it in the filing cabinet drawer, and then shutting that drawer. And you just mentally visualize yourself just shutting that work life or work day out. And then as soon as I open that garage door or the front door of my house, I'm at home. Now, in the midst of me doing that, I went really to the other extreme. So it got to a point where I got home and I'm like, I'm at home, I'm not going to talk about work. But then I ended up not sharing anything about work with my husband. And then it got to a point where at one point I thought, geez, my husband doesn't actually know anything that's going on at work. And I had some pretty big issues that I was tackling there. So you need to be careful that you don't go that far. So I had to pull it back, and then when you get home, do a bit of a debrief with your partner, with your friend, with your flatmate, whoever it is. This is what happened to me at work, and you believe it, have a bit of a debrief. Oh, well, then, have a glass of wine or start cooking dinner or whatever you do, go do some exercise, and then just be at home, and that's a really key thing. Very easy to take it to the other extremes, so I would caution people about shutting it all out. And that kind of leads me into something that I'm really fascinated about at the moment, which is we talk about work-life balance. And really, I don't think, when we talk about work-life balance, we talk about two separate things. There's work and then there's life as two separate things. But they're not separate. I actually would like to see it more as work-life integration. We're one person that goes to work and goes home every day. So really it's about exploring how can we integrate the two worlds. And I know that for many entrepreneurs, excuse me, many entrepreneurs and that, you know, don't go home, or they are at home all day. They work all day at home and then they stay there 24 hours a day. So how do you do that? So you do need to integrate both of your lives, and it's about, you know, accepting the fact that yes, we go to work, and then yes, we come home and have a get into a different mindset. So that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment.
So because you just brought up compartmentalization, normally we ask the question, what's one resource that you can't live without? But I'm going to ask it to you in a different way. What's one resource you can't live without at work, and one that you can't live without at home?
Well, they're the same, really, and it's interesting because it's not a thing. It's not an iPhone or an iPad or I can't live without my iPhone, by the way. But it's more about really my intuition. I think the last 8 years or 6 years of my life, that's what I've been doing. When I say asking questions, listening to myself, listening to my body. So how do we, you know, balance each other? You know, how do we balance ourselves, you know, between how we're feeling, what we're doing, and decisions that we need to make. And it might sound a little bit weird, but yeah, my intuition is something that has helped me to no end, both at work and at home. So really listening to yourself and learning how to really tap into that is very difficult, because normally we just listen to that negative chatter in our heads that tells us, no, you can't do that, or, you know, or you don't look good enough, or, you know, who do you think you are? But it's really tapping into that and knowing that if your body's telling you that you're tired and that you shouldn't push yourself any further, then stop. And that is such a hard thing to do, and I'm no expert at it, and it's not perfect for me, but that's the one thing that you can take across work and personal life.
Hey, I'm gonna ask a bit of a different question here. What is one thing that most people don't know about you?
Okay. Now, the Aussies, I think, are going to get this, and I may have a parallel to this for the Americans, and I'm not sure if the UK would know, but when I was about 9 or 10, I was in the Johnny Young Talentine School. So that's one thing. I don't know, Heather, if you know what that is.
I was just going to say, explain that a little bit more for those of us that are from America.
Okay, so the Johnny Young Talentine School, I don't know, help me out here, Andrew, but I think it might be not equivalent, but similar to the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh.
So it's like, you know, Danny Minogue was on it, Tina Arena was on it. So it's a show, it was a talent show that was on every Saturday night here in Australia. So many years.
It wasn't a talent show where there'd be different people every week. It was the same.
No.
They were usually up to about, what, 15 or 16 years old. And
pretty much.
It was the same kids every week, but they were all talented singers. And they'd be on every week and they'd sing the latest pop songs that were out. And, you know, sometimes there was guys in there, like, as Claudia said, Danny Minogue was on there for forever. I only watch it, by the way. That was the only reason I used to watch it. But,
she's Kylie's sister, for those of you that don't know Kylie Minogue.
Kylie was not even once. I was excited. But so then they had a school because they needed some talent for if any of the kids, you know, stopped or grew up or their voice broke.
That's right. Exactly.
To pull from. So it was a really popular show for many years on, I think it was a Saturday night around 6:30 or something. Yep.
That's right. So I went to the school. So every year there was a big concert, and you know you had all the different years, and there was drama, tap dance, singing, and jazz as the 4 subjects, if you would, that you do. And every year they'd select a new person to go onto the show. But the 2 years that I was there, I think one of them was from Tasmania and the other one was from Melbourne that they selected that year. So I was in the Sydney school. So yeah, it always raises a couple of eyebrows when I mention that.
So are you going to sing a song?
It's a
Sorry?
great story.
Did he sing us a song? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know. I didn't know you could sing, Claudia.
I'm going to stick to HR. How about that?
Awesome.
So now, Claudia, because I love talking to you about your work experiences. I love talking about your life experiences as well, but you really do have a wealth of amazing information. So are there 3 simple tips that you can leave our listeners or viewers with right now that they can implement in their life and or business today, starting right now?
Well, one thing about managing people that I've become aware of is that we tend to manage people as the whole person. And I think we're making an inherent mistake. We may think we've just recruited a star and they're really good at doing, you know, this whole job. But in actual fact, they might be very proficient at doing a task in that role, and then in other things that is a challenge that they've presented in their day-to-day work, they're not so good. But we manage them exactly the same. So if we've got someone who is experienced and senior and knowledgeable, we tend to just be very hands-off and say, yeah, great, get back to me, you've got it at hand, it's fine. But without realizing that when a new task is presented and they're not really knowledgeable about how to do it, that we actually do need to provide them with a bit more guidance. So it's called situational leadership. So you have someone that's new at a task, you need to give them direction, you need to set their goals, you need to do their action plan, and you need to be more directive. You tell them how it's done. Even if they're experienced, you're not going to offend them. They're going to welcome that. But if they're very experienced at what they are, and you know that they've done it before, then let them go. Let them set the plan, the agenda, the goals, and then they come and check in with you. So it's a very easy mistake that we all make all the time, and the only way that you can find out where that person's at is ask them questions. And I go back to my asking questions. Ask them questions. Have you done it before? Are you comfortable with it? You know, how do you feel about doing this yourself? Would you like some guidance? And it's those simple questions that if you don't make assumptions that somebody just knows, you know, how to do something, will actually save a lot of heartache. Because what will happen is that if they don't know how to do it, they don't want to come to you and say, I don't know how to do it. You'll end up with a very disillusioned employee. So that would be my number 1 biggest tip on managing people. I think for you personally, have very clear goals. So important. You know, wake up every morning. What's your intention for the day? What's your number 1 goal that you need to achieve for that day? What's the number 1 goal you need to achieve for the week, for the month, for the year? Really chunk it down. Have very clear goals. Sometimes if the goals seem too big, too far-fetched, you don't know how it's going to happen, I always say to people, don't worry about the how. Be very clear about what you want, and then things will start coming together, and you start talking to people about how you're actually going to achieve that goal. So very, very important to have very clear goals. And the last one, again, it may not seem very businessy, but I think it's breathe. You know, don't forget to breathe. So often we're in situations where, you know, we're in a meeting or we're talking to an employee and we're nervous because we're about to performance manage someone, or we're about to exit someone from a business, or we're about to give some hard news, and we forget to breathe. And sometimes just doing a simple breathing exercise and just taking a big breath in and out just settles you, and then you can be a lot calmer about delivering a certain message. There's something that I saw only this week through a lady called Gabrielle Bernstein, who is a spiritual teacher, and she talks about breathing. So do you mind if I guide you for 5 seconds through a breathing exercise?
Yeah, go for it. I think Gabriella is great. So yeah, whatever she teaches, I think, you know, share it, please.
Great. So basically what I'm going to get you to do is breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it, and I'll count you through the steps. So if you breathe in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and now hold it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That simple exercise will actually calm you, de-stress you, revive your energy, and it's called the 1-minute breathing exercise. Now, a lot of people do it with 20 seconds, but that's very difficult to do. I can't even do that. I've been practicing. But it takes you 20 seconds to even just do that one breath, in, hold, out, hold, for 5 seconds each, and it'll really center you again to be able to, continue on with your day. And the most important is just stress levels just plummet. So I'd encourage everybody to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, actually, because that's one thing that I noticed, and probably a lot of people nowadays do, is that they carry their stress in their shoulders, which means that we kind of, and with the computers as well, we're kind of going forward like that, which means our lung capacity is lessened, and then with added stress, we even breathe lighter and faster. So we're oftentimes lightheaded, and we're creating our own stress by just not knowing how to breathe anymore. So thank you for sharing that. It's a good little tip.
Right.
Hey, I was just going to say, I love that. The first thing you're talking about, where having the right people on the job, but also having the right tasks for the right people. I used to, I still do. I like to say that the right people on the right seat in the right bus. Because there's different things. So I think that's a really important part that you brought up, is that there are people who do the right thing and do a good job at a certain level, and then you get them to do something else, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's a different person. What happened there?
Yeah,
and I know,
exactly.
whether we talk about the crewing stuff, we notice that all the time. I'd have we'd have thousands of different volunteers come through, and you'd think you've got them in the right spot, and then all of a sudden they're not doing a good job, but you move them into a different role, and all of a sudden they're a star, and it's just a matter of finding what is their strengths and weaknesses, and knowing that what their weaknesses are, that you can actually get ready for that training or ready for extra education for them. So I think it's a great point you bring up that a lot of people do miss. You'd see this all the time as well. And also, I love that breathing exercise. I bought a book many years ago called The Science of Breath, I think it was. And it talks about how scientifically you need to be able to breathe properly, because everyone forgets to breathe. It's such a subconscious thing that we do that we actually don't do it properly anymore. We do it so shallow that it's not giving us as much energy as you can. And I know there's other people out there who teach that sort of stuff, where you properly breathe for even only a couple of minutes a day, and it gives you so much more energy. So thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
No problem.
Now, so Claudia, what's a mantra or a quote that you live by that helps drive you forward day to day?
I've got one in particular which I've actually got on my Facebook page, on the cover of my Facebook page, and it's, the past is gone, the future doesn't even exist, so forget about both, live in the now, live in present. So how does that influence you in a business sense? Well, you're having conversations and you're in the moment with that person, you're listening to people, you're not trying to have a conversation thinking about what happened to you 3 days ago or 10 years ago, and you're not thinking about, well, what we're going to take you in the future. Like, really just be sensitive. It's, again, not easy to do, but the practice makes perfect. So that is one thing that I've been living by, at least for the last couple of years, really trying to stay in the present moment.
Awesome. That's really cool. Now, Claudia, what would you like to be known for? Like, if someone said, oh, I know Claudia, she is, what would you like to be known for?
Look, I think it's about, for me, it's being a leader and a teacher for people. I mean, Heather said it beautifully, I deal with humans, and actually allowing humans, everybody to kind of get out of their own way. Like, I want to be known for making that difference in even if it's in just, one person's life. Whether it's at work or personally. Again, I look at it more holistically, but really, being very aware of how we think and what we're creating for ourselves, and I wouldn't mind being remembered for being a thought leader in that area.
Beautiful. So, I'd like to leave, as we start to wrap up with this question, what is one major life or business lesson that you have learned?
Look, for me, it's that ultimately we are responsible for ourselves. You know, no one else is. Our happiness depends solely on ourselves. We make the biggest mistake, and I think that's where I was at in 2008 when I met you both, that, you know, we think happiness and everything has to come from, you know, the next car, the next house, the next boyfriend, girlfriend, relationship, whatever it might be. And it really isn't. I mean, they're all things that we aspire to have, and sure, let's go get them. But ultimately, the happiness comes from within, and that I think applies across the board again. It applies at work. You know, why do we go to work? Because we want to earn money, because we want to have a nice life. But ultimately, when you start digging down into the causes as to why you want to achieve certain things in your life, it's because you want to be happy. So, but then it's understanding that that happiness actually comes from yourself and not from anybody else or anything else outside of you.
Claudia, one thing I will say is that I know that when we've spoken recently, you're looking at doing some of your own things on the side, looking at teaching or books or different things like that. So I hope that you do pursue that, because you really are an incredible wealth of knowledge that I find is unique, because you have the corporate background and you really understand working with human beings, but also you have this other unique sort of creative side, healing side as well that you bring through. So what's the next step for you coming up?
Well, I'm working in an organisation at the moment where it's growing and there's a lot of things to be developed. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to, I guess, make a mark and create, not create, but steer a culture in a certain way. So that it helps me with what I want to do personally. In terms of personal, like I've got my blog. I write about my life experiences. I talk about happiness and fear versus love and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that one day I can really marry the two and be able to, you know, help people in the corporate world and just help people at large just be, you know, happier within themselves with what they've chosen to do in their life. So, you know, a lot of stuff is geared towards, you know, entrepreneurs, and I think I love it. It's fantastic. But I think it would be nice to focus on people that, you know, work for a living and are happy to work for a living, and how can, you know, we potentially harness that group of people and empower them to take control of their lives.
Wonderful. Andrew, do you have any last words that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
No, I just want to say, you know, it's been great having you on, Claudia. I really value your time and sharing that knowledge. And I know Heather and I were having a bit of a laugh at some of the things you're saying, because we're going through a lot of that sort of stuff. We have been going through a lot of that stuff together, and you know, it's hitting the nail right on the head. So thanks for sharing that, and I hope people listening are getting some great value from that, because I know they should be, and they should be taking lots of notes, because it's fantastic. So thanks for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate your time.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed my time, so thank you.
And Claudia, where can people find out more about you online if they want to track you down?
I think the best central place to go is to my website, claudiadevere.com. From there, you can hook into my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Instagram and Twitter. So if you want to sort of look at me in terms of my more professional life, then certainly hook into LinkedIn. Or if you want to know more about sort of this work-life integration and you know, how to deal with ourselves as humans, then definitely head over to my Facebook page and my blog, and hope to connect with you all there.
Wonderful. Now, as always, everybody, we do post links for Claudia on our website, which is makeitsimple.tv, and just find her episode, which is the latest episode, and you can read more about Claudia's background and get all those links there. And let us know what you think as well. We have a comment box there. We'd love to know what you learned out of this show. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, Andrew, and thank you, Claudia, for spending a little bit of time coming from your office right before you get started on your Friday full of work.
Thank
All
you.
right, we'll talk soon.
Bye.